Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Whiskey Congress is back in session. Steve and I are together again in the Cleveland studio on another beautiful day. We are now on the Friday, which is day, I think, 14 of the Trump Stormy Daniels hush money trial. And I am going to be really curious to hear your thoughts on some of this stuff because her testimony was pretty salacious. And there's been a lot of backlash, both from pro-Trump and anti-Trump voices. But a big part of it is she's claiming, like, he's denying that there was even the affair. And I'm like, who the fuck doesn't believe that happened?
It's so I'm looking at this from a legal standpoint, from the eyes of a lawyer. And first of all, it's crazy that that they didn't just stipulate early on that the relationship happened, that sex occurred, right? But defense can't because, defense isn't going to stipulate to that and stipulate, basically that means everybody...
You say your client has to allow you to, right?
Right. Like, so when you stipulate something, it's just like, all right, we all agree early on that this particular thing is a fact in this case and it doesn't need to be proven out, through evidence and testimony, right? Like, that's just a layman's way to explain it, right? So you do that early. So because they didn't do that, they have to establish that there was a sexual relationship. And the defense really, really fucking fumbles this. I mean, there's no other way to describe it, right? Because I'm sitting here going through the transcripts and it's just like, why are you even going down this line of questioning, right? Because they've already asked for a mistrial, saying that her testimony was too devastating, right, when the prosecution was going through, their initial questioning of her.
And the motion that was denied, by the way.
Yeah, and the motion was denied, and it was the defense's fault. And the judge was 100% right. Like, look, you could have objected more, and you should have, but you didn't. And if you don't object, then the judge doesn't have an obligation to stop it, right? Like, I mean, the judge can, use their own discretion, but if the defense is going to allow it, like, were there things that the prosecution asked, that Stormy Daniels answered, took the answer too far, that if the defense would have said objection, would it have been upheld, right? And the answer is yes. But defense, they didn't, they never objected, right? So now, why is that important? Because on appeal, that's what you appeal, those decisions of those objections, right? So if they did object and the judge denied it, right? Overrules, denies it, whatever, then that you can appeal that decision. Now, chances are, judge would have sustained those objections, and then the testimony would have had to stop, right? Not all of it, but that particular line or that answer that she was given would have had to stop, and they would have had to move on to something else. But they didn't do that, right? So that's a tactical error on their part that you can't appeal, right? Now will they be able to appeal? The call for a mistrial and everything else. Yeah, but it's like, that's not right. Like, they'll put that in one of many things that I'm sure when they go upon appeal, whatever they have, they'll use it. But I mean, it just, and then, like going through some of the testimony like yesterday and today, where, defense was on their cross-examination of her, they let her right back down this path of tell us all the, steamy details and everything else. And it's like, that's not necessary. What you need to prove, or what you want to disprove, right, is that there was a mishandling of the money and that there was deception. So them going down this path of tell us all the details about your sexual relationship and the money that you're making and everything else, I don't understand their strategy and what they were trying to do, given what it is that they're trying to defend, right? Like, they were trying to discredit Stormy Daniels by saying, well, she's basically a paid sex worker and, they will do anything for money. That was the path that they were going down, but they didn't, right? Like, she doesn't, like, ultimately what the jury is going to be told, right, is was this money to silence her, to help his campaign? Was it, it should have been labeled as something for finance. It was labeled for legal, legal fees to Michael Cohen, right? So was that money mislabeled as legal fees when it should have been campaign related? And that's really the issue. They got way off track here. The defense allowed it to go off track, kept it off track, kept going further down the path of being off track. And her testimony is really bad for Trump, right? Now, early on in this case, I was like, look, I didn't feel the prosecution had a strong case, but the defense is playing right into their hands at this point. And, now all of a sudden it's like a game that should have been a blowout is now, tied at halftime, with the prosecution actually in the lead, and you still got Michael Cohen to testify, and he is the key witness, right? Stormy Daniels is the witness everybody wants to talk about, porn star sex, because we got to talk about sex.
Sure.
A bunch of people not having it, but okay. But Michael Cohen is the star witness. Why is he the star witness? Because he's the fucking money guy, right? And when I say that, I mean literally, who did Trump write the check to?
I know. Let me again.
To be clear, he wrote the check to Michael Cohen for Michael Cohen to write the check to Stormy Daniels.
I didn't think I needed to spell that out. But look, two things for you. One, making her look like, oh, she'll do anything for money. Like, no one pays money for someone not to have sex with them. So if by acknowledging that they gave her the money, it's not like.
What if you pay for a chick to take an Uber ride because you don't want to have sex with her? Where does that fall?
I don't think you pay $130,000 for a chick to take an Uber ride, not to have sex with her.
Yeah, I'm gonna pay for your Uber. Get the fuck out of here. We're not doing this.
I don't know why we had to go there, but
I haven't even done that. I don't know why.
I don't either. That was just a derailment. But my point is, she got paid six figures for something, and it's not to abstain from relations because he cares so much about his marriage. No one thinks he gives a shit about his marriage. But
the issue is that they had this, they're in this fucked up position because, again, we all know that they had sex, right? But then he denied that he had sex with her in public, right? Like through social media, through press conferences, whatever.
Through calling her horse face, because that's what classy adults do.
Right. So, by him doing that, now they're trying to be like, well, maybe we can paint this picture like she's a liar, but they just did a terrible job with it. And Stormy Daniels doesn't have anything to lose in this situation. She's not on trial, right? Like it's not like it's going to impact her job or her work, right?
Right.
It was an interesting path trying to go down. They're trying to tear her down. Like, look, she's a porn star, and she's a very public porn star, right? There's plenty of porn stars that are very famous, but they don't necessarily have mainstream public profiles.
Okay,
but Stormy Daniels does, right? Like, I could name any number of porn stars right now that a lot of people I've never heard of that person before. Right, like Lauren Phillips off the top of my head.
I have no idea who that is.
Okay, but we all know.
And I know Jenna Jameson is.
Yeah, but again, she's another one who had a
Right.
very public profile.
Right.
Did mainstream movies, basketball, right? One of our favorites. But again, she's another one who had remember she sucked the chrome off the toe hitch.
I thought it was Jenny McCarthy.
Oh, that was Jenny McCarthy.
Okay,
that was Jenny McCarthy.
Okay,
same thing, no?
Well,
I mean, Playboy.
Playboy and porn are different.
Yeah, I think. Jenny McCarthy, or did she just do Playboy? I don't know. That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. I do remember the sucking.
But Jenna Jameson did.
I think we can nail down some carpet if you know what I mean. I mean, there were so many stupid cheesy sexual innuendos in basketball, and we will continue to defer to Matt Parker and Trey Stone as geniuses because they are.
It's incredible. But yeah, like Jenna Jameson, Jenna Jameson was on Family Guy, another one of my favorites.
All right.
She did a voiceover character there, but you're right. But again, two other women that were in the
showing my body naked.
Yes,
industry.
right. In that, and you know their names. But there's plenty of porn stars where you don't. Stormy
Sure.
Daniels has a very public persona. where the average housewife knows of her name for whatever reason, as it relates to something with Trump or
Yeah, I think
through pop culture.
She became
a part of pop culture
because
of this. Yes. Right. But so she's heard all this before, right? Like she's heard like, oh, you're just a sex worker, you're a slut, you're all that. Like she's been through the slut shaming and she don't care, right? Like she's been fortified and she just doesn't care. And one, I respect that. Like do what you do, right? Like, I mean, like she makes good money doing it. She did get into the whole thing with Michael Avenatti, which like what a scumbag that guy was. Jesus,
didn't he go to jail?
Oh, he's in jail right now.
Is he okay?
Yeah. He tried to defraud Nike.
Nike, yeah, because they won't have money.
What are you doing? I mean, we talked about it on the show, but
it was a year and a half or 2 years ago, right?
I can't Nike. I promise you, Nike spent all of 10 minutes ruining this guy's life. Right? He tries to extort him. They're like, who? He want what? Who? Get the FBI guy on the phone. Get him on the phone right now. Connect them, and then we're done talking about this. And the next thing you know, Michael Avenatti's in jail. All the shady shit he did. Yeah, he was able to dance around. He was driving his Lamborghini. I'm running for president. All that shady shit.
I forgot about
all that shit he did. And then he went and tried to fuck with Nike. And Nike was like, man, get the fuck out of here.
Welcome to the big leagues.
Go to jail, bitch.
All right, but I want to ask you about this because I allowed this to get derailed. But when you've got Michael Cohen as your star witness, Michael Cohen has obviously a track record that's not easy for lawyers to deal with because the defense, Trump's team is going to say, this guy went to jail for lying.
Yep.
And
so this is easy.
Okay.
It's not. It's the process is what it is. It's pretty straightforward. You get him on the stand. You got to get that out in front first thing right away, right? You acknowledge the fact that he's a felon. You acknowledge what he went to jail for, and then you take that and you ride right into your testimony about his relationship with Trump, what his job was for Trump, what did he do, describing what his job description was, and then you get into this actual situation, what he did, his understanding of what the money was for, where it came from, why, the time, you establish the timeline, all that sort of stuff, and then you take it out. So it's the first thing that the jury hears, but it's not the last thing, right? Like you don't hide from it, you don't run from it, you own it, you get it established, you get it on the record, and then on cross-examination, defense is going to bring it up, and they're going to try to hammer it home. They're probably going to take it too far. Prosecution is going to object. Judge is going to sustain it. Defense will have to move on. They will have to kind of, ask him some different questions about what he did for Trump, and could you have misunderstood it? Could it have been for this? Again, and the defense is gonna hammer home that he's a liar, right? Like that he went to jail for lying. They're gonna hammer that home repeatedly, and the jury is gonna have to decide: is he lying about this, or has he been reformed, or was this guy on the inside? Like, yeah, he's a liar, yeah, he's a scumbag, but about this, we believe him, right?
It's Godfather 2 stuff. It's like, yeah, the mafia has a lot of buffers. Like, you didn't hear this directly, but you know what you did and you know why you did it. Well, and Cohen might have actually heard it directly.
It's not even the buffer situation. It's not even. The Trump wrote him the check directly. That's not a buffer.
That's a good point.
He was the direct. He was the direct conduit of how the money got from Trump to Stormy Daniels, right? Like, so he was the buffer. Right.
Right.
So that's that'll be interesting. And again, like I said, the defense really fumbled on this by trying to, make her look bad, right? Because all it did was just make Trump look like a scumbag, embarrass Trump, really. Because there were no redeeming qualities about him. It's not like she was just like, look, dude had a big dick. He went all night. It was a great time. That wasn't the testimony. You know what I mean? Like, because frankly, if he did and he had, we probably wouldn't even be here.
He'd be like, yeah, I did this.
Right. She'd be like, you know what? I don't need to say anything, right?
The fact that she spanked him with a rolled-up magazine makes him look like such a...
I don't know.
the whole description, which has been consistent. Say what you want about Stephanie Clifford, aka Stormy Daniels.
Yeah.
Her story's been, everything I've heard has been consistent.
And again, that's another issue that the defense has, that her story has been solid, consistent, and then she wrote a fucking book about it, right? Where it stayed consistent. Like that part is what it is. Trump can't deny Trump can't deny it because he's not getting on the stand to testify, because everybody knows that he would get eviscerated. Now, they could surprise me. He could end up testifying, but I mean, my God,
So that brings me to,
tell me you want to lose without telling me you want to lose. You know what I mean?
So as a non-lawyer, but having been on a jury, and you remember how much I loved that experience, everything that was said in the jury room was, well, if I didn't do it, I'd want to testify. And the judge told us 12 times, like, you cannot take that into consideration. And yet in the jury room, it was said a dozen times. And I was the foreman, and I was like, all right, the judge has said flat out, that is not something we can use as a consideration. Well, but if I didn't do it...
Okay. Look, I mean, as an attorney, it's a
tough story.
It's not. I mean, I was a public defender. Like, most 99.9% of my clients absolutely could not testify on their own behalf because they would send themselves to jail. And I knew that.
Okay.
So it's like, all right.
But 99.2 ends up in jail.
Right. It's just like, so, like, if you're already going to jail, like, you testify, you're going to go to jail longer. So, no, you're going to sit your ass right here, and we'll let the jury ruminate over whether you should have testified or not. But we're going to let the evidence do the talking and not you, because, again, you will get you sent to jail longer,
So let me ask this, because we talked about this last week, and I think we were on the same page at the end of last week, where we both said, I expect a hung jury. And I still do. But it sounds like you're teetering. And I am too, by the way.
I am, because, again, I read these transcripts, and I'm just... it's amazing what Trump does to good attorneys, right? Like, I mean, he's had some decent ones, but he puts them in such a bind because he can't shut his mouth. If he would have shut his mouth 6 years ago, right, he wouldn't have nearly, like, if he just cut it all in half, right, literally just the amount of words that came out of his mouth publicly, cut those in half, he would not be facing 91 charges in 4 different states. He would probably still be president, and none of this would be going on. But the guy can't shut up, and he puts his attorneys and his legal team in such a bind between what he says in the media, violating gag orders, lying about different situations openly, publicly, multiple times on the record. Like, he just, when I say on the record, I mean like with media, journalists, and everything else. Which all that stuff, depending on the situation, ends up coming back because it's just like, look, you said this, right? You said it openly to the public here, and then and you take into account not only what he says but the things that he does that they're trying to fight against, and it, where it's like, look, you're caught red-handed. We don't have much of defense. We're going to go in. We're going to throw all the spaghetti up against the wall, see what sticks, and hope that we cause enough of a mess where we can get a hung jury. Like, that's the strategy. And delay as much as you can, and then they get to a point where they can't delay anymore. The judges get pissed off, which that also doesn't help them. And now here you are on trial, and all of that has come home to roost.
And, you brought up the gag orders. He's violated a gag order, I believe, at least 10 times. And so I'm going to do a thank you, Captain Obvious comment now. If a normal citizen violates a gag order multiple times, that person is in a jail cell paying bail to get out for contempt charges. And this, I feel for this judge, like, I don't want to put a former president of the United States behind bars, but you keep doing this shit, and you're eventually going to give me no choice. Anyway.
And the judge isn't going to put him behind bars. Like, this judge recognizes the very bind that you talked about, right? And he's been very tough on Trump. And I shouldn't say he won't. I think this judge will, but this judge recognizes the political implications. Now, people will say, well, judge shouldn't take that into account. The law is the law. Grow up, people, right? We got to grow up. So, 2 tiers of justice. It's not right, but it's what we got. And he's not a normal person. He's not a normal citizen. Like it or not, he is a former president. And it's not just about, because he's wealthy, or what is the Secret Service going to do, right? You have to think about the actual political implications of this. And you can sit there and tell me, that's not the way it works in the Constitution and blah, blah, blah. Shut up. You don't actually care about that. You're just saying it to say it. The reality is this judge does not want to be responsible for lighting the fire under Trump supporters. He puts them in jail. Trump becomes a martyr. And now you're dealing with that, because it's not just the who's going to vote for Trump. It's the, are people going to show up at Rikers? Does this create a situation where you could have a terrorist threat because someone tries to break Trump out? Someone tries to assassinate the judge or the prosecutor. Something like, there's a lot that goes into putting a former president in jail. Not to mention the logistics of security and everything else, and the fact that you have a former president, and you have to think about the concept and idea of a banana republic. And if he's facing prison time and everything else, you don't want to muddy things up even further with something like this. So you have to kind of tolerate his bullshit to a degree, and continue to threaten him, get firmer with those threats. And hope that he just listens, and that he decides that he doesn't want to go to jail, and that he doesn't push you to send him. And I think the judge is going to refrain from sending him to jail as long as he can, unless Trump just gives him no other choice, and Trump just blatantly blows the gag order by talking about the judge or the prosecutor and, putting their information out there, or threatening them, or something along those lines.
And along those lines, I think the judge has done exactly the steps to get to that point, right? Like,
yes.
Don't push me to this point.
Don't push me.
Because I'm on the edge. All right. You didn't think I'd go there, did you? Anyway, do you want to talk about Biden and Israel, or do you want to?
Yeah. I mean, I'm shifting on this as well. Because, look, Israel isn't going to stop. And the other thing that we're starting to see, Hamas stopping aid going into the people of Gaza, stealing from the people of Gaza, again, innocent civilians that are caught in the middle of this. Just Hamas's actions are putting Israel have Israel in a situation where they're like, look, we don't have a choice. We have to, again, Hamas, they're a terrorist organization. Let's not get that twisted, right? Hamas is a terrorist organization. Sure. They're a dangerous group. They've proven that over the last decade plus. I still stand by the fact that the people of Palestine are not all Hamas. This concept that, they teach their babies to hate Jews and want to kill Jews and everything from the time they're born, so you got to kill them all now. I don't subscribe to that. Even if it's true, those are still innocent babies and kids that have to be converted and have not been converted yet, so they don't deserve to die in this conflict. But at the same time, you can't draw it out for the sake of drawing it out if Israel isn't going to stop. And now I am torn because Biden is doing what I wanted him to do by look, you go into Rafah, we're going to cut off sending you weapons and money. That's what I wanted him to do, but now I don't know if I like it, right? Because then does that neuter Israel? Does it empower Hamas? Do other countries get involved if they think that Israel is on their own? And then does this thing get even bigger and get even worse and get even bloodier? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if this is the right move. I thought it was the right move, and now I don't. You see what's happening. They're both, Hamas is killing children. The Israelis are killing children. I don't know what the right answer is. I do not know what the right answer is. I can't tell you. I know it's wishy-washy and waffly. I have too much empathy to just be hardline one way or the other, but I think I have too much common sense to think that, either it's just, I don't have a good answer on this. I don't, and it sucks. It's bad radio, and I'm sorry. I see these pictures of these babies getting killed. These babies, fucking babies, children. Right? Like I held, I think about when I held my daughter when she was born and when she was 1 year old, and then I'm seeing these fucking babies blown up. I don't know what to fucking do with that. And it's not just one. Like, they killed a 6-year-old baby in the back of a car. They killed her whole family, and then they just fucking blew the car up.
Yeah. And
like,
the
Israeli
Defense Force did that.
Yes, and I don't have, like, they shot those people who thought they were free. The Israeli soldiers shot Israeli people who had been,
the 3 guys that were surrendering, yeah.
And they're in their fucking underwear and they're running out, and then they just get killed. Imagine thinking that you're free, that you made it out of this situation where these terrorists kidnapped you, and you see the people that are there to save you, and those people raise their guns and fucking slaughter you in the street.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this in detail, and it's hard to, it's really almost impossible for us to relate. We're we're sitting in a peaceful place in Cleveland, Ohio,
and
which
also,
has plenty of flaws.
But I also don't want to forget about the fact that Hamas goes into Israel and killed 3,000 people.
Right.
Killed them, raped them, murdered them, cut their heads off.
Took hostages, held onto hostages.
3,000 fucking people.
Yeah.
3,000 people.
Yeah.
What did we do when 3,000 people got killed? Here.
We attacked the wrong country.
We burned a country to the fucking ground.
Yes, and a country that had nothing to do with those 3,000 people. We also attacked the country that did. But, I mean, yeah, we invaded Iraq based on they might do this to us, so we're going to now do this. And again, we went back and forth. We're on the same page. It was just a heated discussion that, like, you can say, America, you have no moral high ground. Okay, fine.
Right.
But that doesn't mean this is okay. And you and I sitting here and go,
because in the rebuttal back to me on what's going on there, we also dropped a fucking hydrogen bomb on Japan and killed
2.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, and wiped out everything. We killed women, children, plants. I know. Jim, I know. All I'm saying, like, war is fucking brutal.
Yes.
And I cannot pretend. I'm not in the position to make these decisions. If I was, I would have a stance. I would take it, whatever it might be. I can't tell you what I would do if I was in Joe Biden's seat, or if I was Secretary of Defense, if I was a general or whatever, or if I was even Bibi Netanyahu. I can't tell you what I would do in that situation because I'm not there. All I can say is, as a civilian, right, that's not involved with the decision making, that's not on the ground fighting, I see all of it, and it all, like, the brutality of it all,
which we so easily whitewash. At sitting, I mean, not you and I, but just in general. The example I go to is not World War II. What I go to is in Iraq. We invaded Iraq. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, but they did have people with improvised explosive devices, and they would literally have kids stand in the middle of roads.
Yeah.
And if you're an American driving a Humvee, you're an American soldier driving a Humvee, there's a kid in the middle of the road. You don't want to run over a fucking child.
So you stop.
And then you get blown up.
Right.
And so what are your orders?
Or you get ambushed.
And so what are your orders?
Run over.
Run over a fucking child.
Right.
And you do that to... Okay, first of all, again, running over kids, gross. Kids have nothing... they don't know anything.
Look, and I know I have enough people who saw a lot of time, did multiple tours, Iraq, Afghanistan, and they've been to these places. They've dealt with this. These stories aren't just like what
anecdotal,
if.
Yeah, they're
right,
real.
Like, this is real shit. Like, guys who have bullets and holes in their body and shrapnel in their body still from all these situations, women, children, baiting them or just flat out attacking them. And it's not as easy as all these kids on campus at all these different schools, Columbia, Harvard, all this protest, all that stuff. It's just like Israel's all bad and this is all Israel's fault, right? Do you guys even understand the history of what the fuck you're talking about? And if you do, I can't believe that you do, because if you did, you'd understand why this is not just good versus evil.
Right.
Right. There's a lot of blood on both sides of this. I understand and I get that we need to stand by and support Israel as a democratic nation in a region of Muslim countries. But I also see the brutality of what Israel is doing, and I got a problem with it. I'm sorry. I got a problem with it.
Steve, you've said multiple times right now, like, you don't know what the answer is. I'm with you. I have no idea what the solution is. I don't know if there is one. I hate to say that.
And here's the thing. Now, I will say that I banged the drum for us to get the fuck out of Afghanistan for 15 fucking years.
Yeah.
And Iraq, right? Like, longer before we were even doing the show, I was like, we need to get the fuck out of there. What are we doing? Right? So this isn't just like, oh, this particular situation is the flavor of the month. Like, look, I don't want war. I don't want our country to be involved. I don't want my friends going over there. I don't particularly want myself to get drafted to have to go over there. I think I'm falling out of that, out of risk of that. But you never know. Like, but I that part of just the destruction, seeing all those buildings come down and getting blown up, and all they're going to have to do for rebuilding. And again, the bodies, the women, innocent children, senior citizens, people who survived all sorts of hell only to die in hell.
And the word innocent is I'm not trying to argue with it other than to say that if you get exposed to this shit as a child and you survive it, you're going to have hatred for those who cause it on you. So you're not only dealing with people who've not wronged your country, you're creating the next generation of people who want to murder.
That's not fair, though, because how many people, there's, yeah.
If you said to me.
Look, hold on. What I'm saying is, yes, war creates warriors.
Yeah.
But they're not all the warriors are bad. Not all the people want revenge. Not all of them want to kill. How many people do we know have come from war-torn countries that have led the world in efforts for peace and stability and come out and done amazing things? So it's not fair that to say, what I'm saying is, let's not paint with that broad of a brush.
Okay,
right? Like, there are plenty of kids and people who will come out of this, that will come out of Palestine and Gaza, whatever, that survive, that are angry and that will become the next level version of Hamas or whatever, right?
And understandably so.
Right, and there are other people who see it and say that can't ever happen again and will continue to fight against it. And there will be other people who move and land here or in Europe and just say, I just want to be in a place where that shit doesn't happen. Right. It creates all kinds but all of those people have a certain level of trauma that they will never be able to. They will see things and experience things and feel things. Some of them may have injuries or so that they'll never forget this. And
they've lost family members.
They've lost their whole existence is completely changed forever in ways that, as of right now, you and I will never know. Right. So, that in and of itself is tragic, right? That you're going to have all these people who carry that.
Completely agree.
Right? And they're all going to deal with it in different ways. Some will be healthy expressions of how to deal with it. Others will be very not healthy. Right? Will be very dangerous.
But you don't need... And maybe the way I said it was bad because I didn't want to make it sound like I'm, vilifying...
No, but your point is well taken that this will create some very, very nasty people.
Yes.
Right? Because the question is who they're going to be pissed at. Because some of them might be pissed at Hamas.
Sure.
Right? Plenty are going to be pissed at Israel. Right? Some might be mad at us.
As I say, plenty be mad at America.
And they may not be too far out. Right. And then Europe, British, France, everybody else. So, but that's what's going on there. I heard something about a ceasefire. I don't know where that is at. Although I did there was something interesting when they were talking about the ceasefire. U.S. came out and said, "Look, we're not saying shit about it. All we know is that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire for a certain amount of time. It's ongoing negotiation, and that's it. Because the U.S. doesn't want to be responsible for coming out and commenting too much on it and ruining it.
If they endorse a Hamas-based ceasefire and it gets violated, now you're
so
okay.
they're just and I thought that was the smart play. They didn't have any other play. They had to shut up on this one, and good job by all the people, secretaries, generals, all that stuff.
I think we could go on about this for hours and hours and hours, but you added
I can't.
Steve Bannon conviction upheld. I thought he was pardoned. So I didn't know he still had a conviction hanging over him.
He was pardoned for the whole wall thing.
Okay.
Remember, he stole
the
money.
Scam, yeah.
This was because they called him in to testify. He refused to come.
Oh, yes.
So they hit him with
contempt of Congress.
Contempt of Congress, yeah. And so that got upheld. And so he appealed it. The appeals court said, "No, it's legit. You're good. You're going to jail." So we'll see what he does if he tries to appeal to the Supreme Court. I doubt they even take it. If he does, but he's going to end up having to serve a sentence. I think it's I can't remember what it was. I think it's like 60 or 90 days or something like that. But
I find him fascinating because he seems like a smart enough guy that
his intelligence is not questioned,
and yet he believes this shit. Like every time we talk about this, I do the whole who believes what they're spewing and who is playing a narrative. I think he believes this shit.
You're way wrong.
Really?
Steve Bannon don't believe this shit. If he believed it, then he wouldn't have been sitting on a fucking yacht funneling money from let's build a wall. Steve Bannon knows most of the shit that he spouts is bullshit. He knows it. But Steve Bannon, he is a master manipulator, right? You're talking about a dude who cut his teeth at Goldman Sachs in the stock market, then jumped over into entertainment, became an executive producer on Seinfeld, made a fuck ton of money.
Forgot about that.
Right, the guy's been all over. He's he's not a true believer. What he's a true believer in is that what he does know is that he's got a foothold of people right behind him that'll believe anything he says, and he's got access to power through Trump. Right, no matter what, Trump still rides with him. So that in and of itself, look, I got the money, and now you're talking about I have the ability to fucking control the United States. Fuck yeah, I'll say whatever these fucking idiots need me to say in order to get access to that type of power and that control. He don't believe a lot of this shit, right? Which is why he's able to do it, right? Because he can read people, he can read the tea leaves, he can see and the reason why I feel confident in what I'm saying is when Trump initially got elected, right? Trump's campaign was going down in flames, and we all agree that it was a publicity stunt. It was mostly bullshit. But Steve Bannon latched on to him. I've talked about this on the show. I listened to Breitbart Radio back when all this was going on. I would listen to it every day driving into work, and it was amazing, right? Because Steve Bannon would call Trump out on his bullshit, called him out directly on it. And then he let's get this guy on the show. So he gets him on the show. Trump said whatever stupid things, right? But then they started to kind of get a little bit of a rapport, right? And Steve Bannon would let him talk, right? Because Steve Bannon, hated Democrats and Hillary Clinton and everything else. He had all the other candidates on the show. But then the other candidates stopped coming on the show because, Breitbart was bad for their brand. But Trump said, I'll do it. So he kept coming on the show multiple times, right? So then they started to develop a relationship. And what happened was Trump would say something stupid or ridiculous or not true, right? And Bannon would kind of, you didn't mean that. What you meant to say was this, right? Same idea, same concept, but put in a better way that was more palatable.
Massaging the truth.
Exactly, right? He would just massage the bullshit and then put it in a way that people could digest it, right? And Trump was like, oh, yeah, sure, okay, we'll go with that, right? And then that turned into Trump coming on the show weekly, Steve Bannon doing that more and more, and then they started to talk off air, right? Bannon would talk like, yeah, I talked to Trump last night, I did it, we talked about this, we talked about that, guys, he's really starting to come along, he's starting to come around, right? And then all of a sudden, like the stuff that Bannon is talking about on the show become major talking points for Trump during the campaign. And the people who listen to Breitbart and listen to Steve Bannon, right, were now shifting away, because at the time, Ted Cruz was kind of the guy, right? Yeah. But then they shifted away from Ted Cruz because that group, they were loyal to Steve Bannon. Now you've got a presidential candidate who is saying everything that Steve Bannon is saying to them every day on the radio and everybody on that channel was saying. So now he becomes their candidate, right? And Steve Bannon, the whole time, is just like goes from a guy on the radio just giving advice to, hey, why don't you help me out?
Generic person, right?
Right. Well, he ends up working for Trump's campaign.
I mean, like, I'm now speaking about a person that's not directly connected to me, and now,
yes.
You're here.
Right. So now Bannon is a part of the Trump campaign and then becomes a part of his fucking administration.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
now, I do want to call you out because you you criticized me for watching Newsmax and OAN and all that shit. You were watching Breitbart.
No. One, I was listening to it. Two,
so sorry.
Well, there's a difference there because, like, people, like, Breitbart has plenty of shitty views or whatever, but the issue that with Breitbart, at least then, that a lot of the mainstream media had, you didn't like what they were saying, but a lot of the shit that they were saying at the time, all right, because they were kind of like TMZ. They couldn't be wrong. They couldn't, like, was Andrew Breitbart, like, their founder? He died weirdly. And, right. So,
like, heart attack at a young age.
Right. And Andrew Breitbart was out there, right? I mean, he was a guy, but he was more of a, the system is fucked up. It's fucking us. And we need to do something about it. Breitbart shifted over time into this, super right-wing conservative, borderline racist sort of, news outlet, over time. And really that happened more over the Trump years as, once Trump really kind of took a foothold, right? And now I'm not saying that what Breitbart was saying and doing before was great, right? It was a good way to get an unwhitewashed version of what the right was thinking, right?
Okay.
Fox News gives you a very, formulaic sort of version. You know what Fox News is. Breitbart at the time was more grassroots. I didn't agree with the shit that they were saying. But what drew me to them, what actually did draw me to Breitbart and why I was listening to them is because of Brandon Darby. Brandon Darby is now like the lead guy on talking about what's happening at the border. He is not a MAGA guy. He's a guy that I feel has credibility. And when he listens, I talk, or when he talks, I listen. And so he was really captivating, and I would listen to him on the show talk about the different shit that was going on the border. He gave you good resources to go and identify, to go and find and see what's actually happening and how to understand truly the nature of the cartels and their involvement in the Mexican government and how brutal they can be. There was a lot of value in what he says, and he still writes for them. I don't know. I don't listen to Breitbart as much because they swung too far into fucking Sillyville. With the bullshit and the MAGA stuff and everything else. But he was a really good, he was why I would listen to Breitbart. But then, leading up to or after, I would catch this other stuff. And then that's when I started to pick up on the Bannon and the Trump stuff. And the dude is not like, he's not a true, I tell you, he's not a true believer in this stuff. He's not.
I want to come back to that.
But he is a master manipulator, and he is thirsty for power, and he sees how he had a taste of it the first run, and this is why, like, he's been a big part of reshaping how they're going to do it if they get in, and it's dangerous because he is smart and he knows what he's doing, and
he knows he can play Trump like a fucking puppeteer. I want to just clarify to people who might not understand.
But he's also going to jail.
There's that. And so might Trump. But when you said they're like TMZ, we talk about this all the time. I just want people to understand that TMZ says a lot of salacious shit, and they can't risk being wrong.
Right. They got to be able to back it up, proof, evidence.
Because
right?
once you stop being able to do that, you go from being a dirt raking company to the National Enquirer.
Right. They didn't want to be the National Enquirer, so TMZ. I can't remember the guy's name. Harvey something. I think that was his name. It was like the founder of TMZ. It's not Weinstein. I could see the guy's face. He's smaller. I think he's a Jewish guy, very fit. But TMZ, like you hear a story from TMZ, raise your eyebrow.
Yeah.
You may be TMZ, but that chances are that story is going to be dead on
because they can't risk being
right. Like,
once you're not
because they broke the story about Tiger, right, Tiger Woods, and everybody was like, "What the fuck?" And then that turned into what that turned into.
Didn't go great for.
They broke another big one too. I can't remember that.
They're
people.
Been a bunch.
Yeah, they like look. If they break a story, you may not like them, but chances are that story is going to be accurate.
All right. So you're saying Steve Bannon is not a true believer. Marjorie Taylor Greene is
a true idiot.
She's a moron, absolute fucking idiot.
Well, yeah, I think she is a true believer. I think.
I'm not saying that's better by any means, but she is. When she spews nonsense, I believe she believes what she's saying. She's just so fucking indoctrinated and stupid that it's not worthy of credibility.
Yeah, so she was pushing to get Mike Johnson removed from his speakership. She wanted to vote on it, and literally I think she had the support of 16 Republicans, right? And everyone, and what's his name, Crenshaw down in Texas, he went on.
I didn't see what he said.
Yeah,
I like Dan Crenshaw. You know that.
I don't have the exact quote, but I mean he eviscerated her pretty good. Basically saying that she was looking for attention and she, things had been quiet for her, so she needed to bring something up, and if she could. Basically, if she could read the room, she would realize how ridiculous this is and everything. I mean, it was
I did not
bad
see it.
for her.
I do like him because I think he is a genuine person. I don't particularly agree with his politics. He said a bunch of shit I don't agree with. I did like him when he got into the whole back and forth with Saturday Night Live. I thought that was very funny. But I think he's grounded in reality. And
usually.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is not. Yeah, I mean, no, he's definitely got some views. Like, one of his things that drives me nuts is he says, we got to attack the 9/11 because, the Taliban hates our freedoms. I'm like, that's not why that happened. That is such a simplified version of what you want to believe. There's a whole bunch of shit that led up to that, and
yeah, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on his reasoning. As he's a dude that served there, both Afghanistan and Iraq.
True.
I'm not gonna. I really don't push back on the I get what you're not wrong, but I'm also not. I'm not gonna argue with him. Right, I think
he believes what he says.
He does, right? Because when the Taliban is, shooting at you, you're not going to sit there, right? You're going to sit there. Hey guys, historically, your beef really shouldn't be with us. I mean, realistically, your beef, you're not going to have that conversation with them.
No, Mike.
And so when you're in his situation, it's just like, look, I don't give a fuck about what happened 40 years ago. Those motherfuckers were shooting at me in real time. So. The motherfuckers that were shooting at me didn't give a fuck about what was going on 50 years ago. They just know they don't like me because I'm an American and they're shooting at me. So take your history and shove it up your ass.
Okay, well,
that's. I mean,
okay. I'm just saying.
What do you? If you're having this conversation with him, what are you going to say to that? Because that's what his answer is going to be.
My answer is going to be: believe what you want to believe, but when you simplify reality,
no.
Yes.
And his answer to you is going to be, fine, then take your ass over there, you deal with it, and you try to have that conversation with them about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But, I mean, you can't, we're not going to attack a vet who was actually there, who dealt with it, right? Because
I don't believe I was attacking him.
Yeah, you said he says this, right?
And he's wrong. And I stand by that.
But I think both things can be true at the same time. The people that were shooting at Dan Crenshaw from the Taliban hate Dan Crenshaw because he's American.
Yes.
Because he's in their country.
Yes.
And
we did not get attacked on 9/11 because Islam hates our freedom. We got attacked on 9/11 because the United States occupied Saudi Arabia following the invasion of Kuwait, and Osama bin Laden fled Saudi Arabia because the Saudi royal family said, yeah, we're going to go with you. And I can dial it all the way back to fucking Iran and the Shah.
But then he would probably just go to like a video of, Osama bin Laden saying he hates the West and our freedom.
He does hate the West. Okay.
Did.
All right.
Did.
Oh yeah, there's that.
He did.
All right, let's move on.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
They unalived him in a pretty awesome fashion.
Took a while.
It did.
All right.
They could have got him a little sooner, but they didn't move.
All right. So anyway, but we agree Marjorie Taylor Greene is a moron who tried to get Mike Johnson removed from office, failed miserably with the support of Democrats, which I think is key.
Yes.
Because they said, we care enough about the fucking...
Right. We're not going to shut down Congress so you guys can be idiots, right? Like, so, no, you're not removing the speaker, right? We did this once. It was funny to watch you guys, just shit all over yourselves, but we're not doing this anymore. Let's move on. And the main reason why I brought it up, though, was that it just shows how neutered she is now, right? Like, it was like she had all, she was big tits on campus, with the whole thing with Kevin McCarthy and like, I got you by the balls and I can pull you at any time. And come to find out, like, you had that was your only card. You had one trump card. You know what I mean?
Interesting choice of terms.
Right? And you played it, and now you're out. Right? Like, you had your one move. You and Matt Gaetz teamed up. You got McCarthy kicked out, and you said all this shit about McCarthy, and you shit all over him. You got Mike Johnson in there. Now Mike Johnson is doing his thing. The country is running, and we don't have time for your bullshit, MTG. That's literally what her party told her.
Yeah.
They said, go over there and sit down and shut the fuck up. Right?
Yes.
And she doesn't have a choice. Like, she had a meeting with Mike Johnson demanding, what did she? She demanded that he shut down the Department of Justice and stop the, prosecution of Donald Trump. She had a meeting with him. And I think it was for like 3 hours. And Mike Johnson was like, I didn't say much. And she made her demands. And that was that. It was almost literally his response. Because that was her response to, she couldn't get Mike Johnson kicked out. So then she goes and meets with him for 3 hours and says, you need to shut down the DOJ, which he ain't got the power to do, by the way.
I was going to say.
Right? He doesn't have, and it's just like, you don't even know. Oh, God damn it. Right?
Yeah, and good. If I'm going to give the Democratic Party credit here and say that they said, we don't like Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is right-wing as fuck. I mean, when he got the speakership, you and I talked about it. I was like, damn, this guy is so far right. He's, he's
just a weirdo. That was the bigger thing.
Okay.
Like, I got stuck on his whole thing with him and his son looking at each other's phones for porn. That's weird.
I forgot about that.
How? Every time I see the guy, I'm like,
memory.
So you hand your phone to your son, and your son hands his phone to you, and then you guys scroll through, and what do you do if you find something?
Go to my burner phone. I don't know either. But yeah, good. Getting her to shut the fuck up.
There's an iPad in that house with all sorts of shit on it, I bet.
I think Louisiana was a state that was going to make you jump through all kinds of hoops to download porn. And
so if you're in Louisiana and you're online, you do have to confirm your identity.
One of us has been in Louisiana in the last couple months.
They did do that.
That wasn't a setup. Honestly, I promise you, I'm glad it happened. I'm not apologizing. I'm simply saying I did not think about that.
So here's the fucked up part.
I was supposed to be with you in Louisiana.
I know.
Shit went crazy.
Here's the fucked up part. I was actually sitting at... I'm going
to turn my mic off.
I was sitting at a cigar bar in Louisiana in the French Quarter. Don't know why. I go to look at something probably not appropriate for public at all. And then it's asking me all these questions. I mean, what the fuck is this? God, I'm audibly saying shit out loud. And the dude who was helping me, were the cigar bar person, I guess, cigar tender, was like, is everything okay? I'm like, yes, everything is fine. I have issues that I need to work out.
Go to tech support right now.
Right. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Never mind. Just, Yep.
Oh, I had no idea I was opening this door, but I'm
Yep.
so happy I did.
That happened in real time.
All right, moving on. You're welcome, by the way. I do want to talk about. You brought up Roger Fortson.
Yeah, Roger Fortson. He was an Air Force airman. He's 23 years old in Okaloosa, Florida, Okaloosa County, Florida. I'm not sure the exact city they were in or town, or maybe Okaloosa is a town. I don't know, but it was Okaloosa Sheriff's. Long story short, the sheriff's department got a call about a domestic dispute, and they showed up to Roger Fortson's home. Police officer knocks, steps away from the peephole, knocks again, steps away from the peephole. Roger Fortson answers the door. He's got a handgun in hand, but it is pointed at the floor. He's not aggressive in any way, shape, or form. Police officer, as soon as the door opens, sees Roger Fortson, sees the gun, shoots Roger Fortson, kills him in his home. This happened a couple weeks ago. They just released the body cam footage. The body cam footage is not good for the police officer. It is not a justified kill, and he needs to be prosecuted for it, in my opinion.
Okay. I haven't seen it. I mean, you brought it to my attention.
Yeah, I meant to send it to you. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But it's not. And I've seen online other police talk about this. I haven't seen a single police officer that's commented on it that says it was a clean shoot. Haven't seen one. Pretty much everything I've seen in terms of comments from people, at least seemingly police officers, military, all agree it was a bad kill. There are people out there. Well, he answered the door with a gun. What was the police officer supposed to do? He was not supposed to shoot him. He was legally allowed to own the gun. You're in Florida, right? He's in Florida, in his home. He's a veteran. He's of age. He's legally allowed to own the gun. And people were like, well, the police officer announced that he was a police officer. He was there. Look, people pretend to be police officers. The people use that to get into your home, to break into your home, right? And if I was going to rob somebody in the middle of the day, it's, police.
Did it happen do you know what time it happened? Was it daylight?
I believe, I'm not sure. I think it happened around 4:30. So I think
PM.
PM.
So
yes.
it's not like it's 2 a.m.
I think so. But
and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, that's a good question.
I'm trying to put myself in the position of if someone pounds on my door and says police. If someone's pounding on my door and I'm not expecting someone to be here, I'm gonna have a gun nearby. Will I have it in my hand as I open the door? I don't know. But
either way,
he wasn't breaking any laws.
He didn't break a law by doing it.
Right.
Right. And that's the big issue, right? He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything to provoke the officer, right? The only thing that he did is that when the officer raised his gun, Fortson raised his free hand, not the hand with the gun in it, right? The hand with the gun in it stayed pointing down at the ground. Fortson sees the police officer raise his gun. Fortson immediately raises his hand, but it happened so quick.
Sure.
It's just the gun goes up, gun goes off, bang bang, Fortson's down, right? And the cop's screaming at him, drop the gun. Fortson is bleeding out in his doorway.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I'm trying to put myself in those situations and I'm probably answering the door with a gun in my hand. I probably, sitting here logically thinking about it in this context, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be cognizant of this and this and this. But when it's happening to you at, in your living room for no reason, you're not thinking there's someone on the other side of the door that's going to shoot the second I open the door.
Right.
All right, we're going to go long again, which we usually do. I want to talk. You put Vivek Ramaswamy in our issues to talk about, and I don't know why.
Yeah. So Vivek Ramaswamy, as we know, ran for president, and he showed up in an interview with Ann Coulter. And
my sweetheart.
Yeah, seriously, she's about as sweet as a rusty cheese grater. But Ann Coulter, says, you are, you're a smart, intelligent, articulate guy. Well, actually, you know what I'm going to do?
Are you going to play the video or audio?
We'll just.
So bright and articulate, and I guess I can call you articulate since you're not an American black. Can't say that about them. That's derogatory. And that was a great opening segment. Lots of things to talk about there. Oh, and I agree with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president. But I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian. We'll get back to that.
Yes.
Okay. A lot to unpack there. Mm-hmm. We can't call you articulate because, oh my God.
Well, she said, because it's what she's saying is,
all right.
When she's talking about, not being able to call black people articulate, she's not wrong. She's being very condescending the way she says it. But what happens is, I walk into a room and say some people like, oh, you're so nice, you're so smart, you're so articulate, right? And then, a white guy walks in with the same level of articulation, and he doesn't. It's just like, oh, you're so articulate for a black guy, right? Like, so what she's saying is the fact that black people call that out somehow is an affront to her. So she's saying, like, because you're not black, I can say this without you being offended. But then she goes on to say, like, I agreed with everything that you said and what you were doing, but I wouldn't have voted for you because you're an Indian, right?
Right.
And look, Ann Coulter, that's on brand for her. That's not a surprise. It's Ann Coulter being Ann Coulter.
Yes. What is she even on anymore? Is there her own show?
She's on X. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what that was from. I don't know if it's from her podcast, his podcast, whatever it was. But, the bigger thing is, like, so Ramaswamy doesn't really respond. Like, he just kind of... when she made the comment about black people, he laughed, full smile, cheesing, ha, 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 stupid black people. And then she's like, I wouldn't have voted for you for an Indian. And you see his face immediately drops. Like, oh, shit.
I'm not white enough for you.
Yeah,
all.
That's exactly. It's that realization. And, like, look, man, like, as a person of color, like, you can sit there and talk about there's no such thing as racism and it's all overblown and everything else. But, like, and you can try to cater to the group that has repeatedly shown that they're very, at least...
impacted?
No, I mean, like, white supremacist adjacent.
Oh, okay.
You can continue to try to cater to the Trumps and to the Ann Coulters and, Tucker Carlsons and everything else. But at the end of the day, like, some of them are going to, kind of remind you who you are and put you in your place. And that's something that you need to be conscious of. Now, what I will say is that as a person of color, you got to do that with all white people. Don't matter if they're conservative, progressive, liberal, because I've seen it from all of y'all, right? Like, there's plenty of progressives that are right now out there screaming about Palestine and all this other stuff, and they were screaming about George Floyd, but let a black person do something to them that they don't like, and all of a sudden, all that shit goes out the window, and they've got some derogatory racist shit to say, right? I mean, I've literally seen girls that dated black guy cheats on them or whatever, and then they literally wipe all the Black Lives Matter shit from their Instagram accounts.
Well, that's a different story.
I mean, okay, but fine. But point being is, like, as a person of color, you don't get too comfortable with this idea that just because they're slapping you on the back and laughing with you now, that it's always going to be like that. You better be ready for when the shit comes out. And how are you going to deal with it? Now, he didn't wig out. Now, what he should have done is he should have said something, right? He should have said something to her right there, and he should have called on it. Like, no, we're not going to come back to it. Explain yourself. Tell me why you have this racist ass view, right? But he can't do that. Why? Because he sat there for how many months talking about, oh, there's no such thing as racism, and it's all overblown, and I'm an Indian American, and look at all these things that I've accomplished because racism doesn't exist, right? And then she literally took it and smeared the shit all over his face, and he had to fucking eat it because he doesn't want to get caught on the wrong side of the culture war, so he's got to sit there and get belittled and take that shit, right? Now, some people are going to be like, oh, it's good that you didn't, get all offended and fight back and whatever. Like, is it really? She just completely disrespected you and belittled you, and you think it's good that he just sat there and take it? Okay.
Do you know where he went to school?
There you go. Miami of Ohio? OU? Something like
He
that?
went to Xavier.
Cincinnati.
So Xavier, Cincinnati, high school and college. Mm-hmm. He's a Cincinnati kid. He's a rich kid from Cincinnati. I know a lot of people who went to those schools, and they are not hurting for money. But that's irrelevant. He grew up rich.
And he's made plenty of money.
Yeah.
He may have started on third, but he still made a fuck ton of money. Can't deny that.
True. And I found the guy interesting for a while, and then
until he went full Trump. He did not take the advice from Tropic Thunder. Never go full Trump.
Okay, let's do that rather than where this could go. Because
I just think that's interesting, right? Like you.
No, but that's that for her to say that,
and for him to sit there and take it. That's the part, right? The look on his face and the fact that he sits there and take it. It's just like couldn't have happened to a better guy.
All right. Well, now I know why you put that on the board. We've gone way long.
Yeah. So
Kendrick Lamar. Save it because it's gonna last.
We can. Yeah. The Kendrick Lamar Drake thing will be there for a while. We'll come back to that. We'll remember that other part about it too. I do want to talk about this man versus bear in the woods, right? Because it kind of goes back to the conversation with the whole thing that we were talking about a couple weeks ago. So there's this thing on the internet going around about a man, like if a woman is in the woods, which would she rather encounter, a bear or a man, right? And, having thought about it, I think the answer for a woman is absolutely a bear, right?
I get it.
And look, and the reason why is that now, unless it's a rabid bear, if it's a rabid bear, then nobody wants to see a rabid bear in the woods because that's no good for anybody. But if it's just a bear in the woods, I would much rather, a woman that I'm close to deal with that than deal with strange guy in the woods, right? Because I deal with men, like between my time working in bars, being a man, being in locker rooms, being around, there's plenty of reasons why a woman alone in the woods with a guy that she doesn't know could go way sideways, right? With a bear, right? Like it's not ideal and it could be a very, very terrible end, but at the same time, you got a good chance of making it out. Don't scare it. Don't run at it. Don't try to do anything. Just be real still. Don't move. And you'll probably be all right, right? Bears kill, 10 people a year, right?
Right. And it's, I'm not going to get into, where you are because a Kodiak bear is a different thing than a black bear in New York, in Maine.
Right.
Black bear is going to weigh 300 pounds and want to get a fuck away from you. Dealing with a Kodiak is going to weigh 3 times that and potentially maul you depending on time of year. But I get why that's a. It's more.
I don't get where it came from. I'm not sure why. I get it though, and I tend to agree. Like I said, I tend to agree. I would rather a woman that I know have to deal with a bear than strange guy in the woods. Strange guy in the woods could go sideways any dozen of ways. Right?
Yeah.
Bear, it's the main thing you got to avoid is getting eaten. Getting swiped with a paw or getting eaten.
Yeah, and so part of me is like, okay, I get the point you're making with this, philosophical thing. Having said that, running into a bear in the woods would be fucking terrifying.
Not good.
Too. Not good at all.
First of all, my black ass just tries to stay out of the woods. So start there.
So I've spent a lot of time in the woods as a younger guy. I used to hunt a lot. And there was one time, I'm pretty sure, I walked up on a bear and it ran away. So I never saw the animal that was running away. It was just really loud. And I've seen plenty of deer run away from me. This was a big animal running away. I was fishing, so I was not carrying a firearm, and it freaked me the fuck out.
So
now, but having said that, running into a random dude in the woods as a guy is still
not
uncomfortable.
Right.
I mean, that's happened to me. Again, I used to be an avid hunter. And a lot of times I'd be hunting on public land and, I've got a bow and a fucking climbing, tree stand on my back. I'm essentially immobilized. Mm-hmm. And I run into some random person and I'm like, okay, how you doing? And I'm not the kind of target they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And if I'm a woman, I'm like, this represents a whole different dynamic. I get it.
Right. I mean, Dick Cheney shot a dude in the face. Like,
well, he shot at a fucking quail. That's a whole different story. Fuck Dick Cheney. How the fuck is Dick Cheney still alive, by the way?
It's crazy.
How is Dick Cheney still fucking alive?
Kissinger lived to be 100, so that's...
And he was a great guy.
Please understand the sarcasm there, folks.
Yes, please do.
But look, now, here's the thing, though. I don't want a woman that I know running into a strange man in the woods. I also don't want her running into a strange man in the bathroom.
Oh, we're not doing this again.
We're not. I'm just saying.
So
if you're a woman and you're sitting there saying, I don't want to see the dude in the woods, I'd rather see a bear, well, I agree with you. Which is why if there's a strange man shaving in a bathroom, got an issue.
We did this, was it 2 weeks ago or last week? That was 2 weeks ago, I think.
And I went back. So the way that went down, that woman at the Planet Fitness who complained about the guy shaving, she didn't make a scene. She wasn't an asshole about it. She was like, hey, this dude in the bathroom. And then she goes on social media and talks about it. And they kicked her out. They kicked her out of Planet Fitness after she went on social media to talk about it. And that, to me, is kind of fucked up. Because...
That they kicked her out or that she went on social media?
Well, both putting it on social media, okay, and then the fact that they kicked her out, I'm not exactly sure what the justification is because I didn't see that she recorded the incident and then put that on social media. Now, if she had recorded him in the bathroom and then put that on social media, then if that's what their justification was for kicking her out, then
recording shit in the bathroom is enough,
right? Like that, then that I understand. I didn't see that she had recorded it. I didn't see a video of her, posting this guy on social media. So I don't know. But if they said, well, you complained to us about it, then you went on social media, so we're kicking you out, like that I have an issue with. But this, if you go this whole thing, man versus bear, I saw it on social media, and there's a whole list of reasons why women don't want to see men in the woods, right? A whole laundry list of reasons, and they're all valid. Right? Just rape, disagreements, murder, all this other stuff. Just these terrible situations that women have seen over, the existence of time, right? And dealing with men who can't take no for an answer, who don't like rejection or just are fucking sick in the head, whatever. And I'm like, yes, that. And, so just because guy says that he's a woman and wants to go in the bathroom, I got enough history and background to say, I don't know if that's enough for me to just be okay with this. Right? I'm not saying that they need to be ostracized or banished from society or anything. I think if you want to do that, do it. Whatever. You want to cut your dick off and be a woman, or if you want a woman and cut your tits off, okay, fine. Right? That's you and your decision. All right? Leave the kids out of it. Right? All the way around. Right? Kids want to do it, they got to wait till they're 18. And in this sort of situation, we got to figure out the bathroom thing, because I don't want, because I can take my kid to Planet Fitness and I can take my kid in the locker room to go to the bathroom, but my daughter's at an age now where I don't go in the bathroom with her. I will, when I did, you know what I mean? I would generally go to the family bathroom, right? And then there's a door, you can lock it, whatever. But now she goes into these situations, she goes to the bathroom by herself at 9 years old. And I worry whether there's a man or, I don't care who's in the bathroom. I worry about my kid being away from me in a bathroom by herself. Right? And now if you add an extra layer that there could be a man in there who says that he's a woman, he may not have bad intentions, but he may, right? I don't know. And that's the scary part about it, which I don't think that people should be shit on because they have concerns, right? My issue isn't with trans people. My issue is with a person that I don't know what their intentions are, that is a man, right? And that could hurt my kid. Like, that's just where I'm at with it. You know, any other trans issue that you want to bring up, like, I generally am supportive. I know trans people. I've helped trans people. I've done, you know, like, I've literally gone to things to help protect them. I'm just saying that, look, the bathroom situation, especially in a place like a gym, is there's nuance to it, and we need to have a broader conversation just that's beyond yes or no. That's all I'm saying.
All right. And I think, I mean, you and I did argue pretty aggressively.
But I will say, you know what I don't want, you know who I don't want to see in the woods?
Who?
Man, bear, pig. Because then what, Jim?
A stock of...
This is cereal.
All right.
There's
Anyone who doesn't get the South Park reference,
there's another
that's
South
on
Park
you.
reference.
We're going over, and I'm gonna punt unless you're.
No, we're good.
All right, we're good. We are out. Thanks for listening, and we're done.